It's a household name which changed the face of the British holiday.
Butlins made us into different people.
Generations of holidaymakers have spent their summers there.
They pulled out all stops to make you enjoy your week, and by God, they done it nicely.
All these gags about I joined the escape committee and all this stuff wasn't true. People had a marvellous time.
But it's also a place where stars were born.
When Ringo he put the phone down, he turned around to me and said, I'm going to join the Beatles.
Over the next hour, we'll look back at decades of British holiday making. From the Redcoats.
We would put the number up on the board, and if it was their child that was crying in a chalet, Mum or Dad would have to leave the theatre.
To the competitions.
I was involved with everything, running races, sack races, the football. I took part in, like, everything.
And along the way, we'll show home movie footage, which has never before been seen on television.
I used to love the Merry Mixer.
As we celebrate 75 years of Butlins. In 2011, over 7 decades after opening their first holiday camp, Butlins still attracts more than 1 million visitors a year to its 3 resorts at Bognor, Skegness and Minehead. Today's Butlins have high-tech facilities with modern entertainment areas, smart hotels and a range of restaurants.
There you go, love. Thank you very much. Cool.
It's a far cry from the destination which faced the first Butlins holidaymakers in 1936, when one man's bold vision was about to become a reality. In the 1930s, Billy Butlin was already a successful businessman, with fairground attractions at seaside resorts all around the country. But then he had a revolutionary idea.
You have now arrived at Butlins Holiday Camp. We hope you've had a pleasant journey and that you will all be very happy here.
Butlin built Britain's first large-scale all-inclusive holiday camp at Skegness on the Lincolnshire coast. 6-year-old David Bradshaw visited the new resort on the very day that it opened in 1936. 3/4 of a century later, he's returning to Butlins to visit the one original chalet that still remains, now preserved as a Grade 2 listed building.
And the sink would be here. The little yachts, they would be on the curtain as well. It was a long line of brilliantly white buildings, all rectangular shape, with a sort of tower in the middle. That was Billy's idea. He wanted to build it like an ocean liner, and the tower was the funnel. The chalets, Billy painted them all in pastel colours. This was completely in contrast to things in towns. My hometown, it was a grey town. But to come to Skegness and see the bright colours and these white buildings, it was a wonderland.
Butlin targeted normal working families with an all-inclusive weekly charge of £2 and 5 shillings. That's just over £100 in modern money.
In my opinion, it was the world's very first packaged holiday, where people could come and pay one sum of money and they didn't have to pay anything else.
Billy Butlin had successfully launched his new empire, one which would become an enduring symbol of the Great British Holiday. But he was still missing one vital ingredient.
People were very reserved that time, you know. Dad especially. Mum would like to get up and dance, but Dad was very, I'm not going to get up and dance, no way. So he said, I need something. I need a mixer, a mingler, somebody who would spend some time with any age group, young or old.
Butlins recruited a team of hosts and entertainers to keep the guests active and happy. They wore red coats so that the holidaymakers could spot them in a crowd. Rocky Mason still remembers the code of conduct issued with his first red coat uniform over 50 years ago.
The rules were, you have become a famous philosopher, friend and guide. You are now a Butlin redcoat. And as such, don't look for attractive girls. Look for the tubby little person, the wallflower, someone sitting alone.
But redcoats weren't supposed to get too friendly with the guests.
The male redcoats were opposite the unattached girls. And there was just like a walkway between their chalets and ours, right? And we used to call it the bridge over the River Kwai because you used to hide behind things. And when the security guards had gone by, you'd nip across.
Over the years, Billy Butlin would expect his redcoats to be equally daring when it came to the camp's many and varied activities, some of which carried more than a hint of danger, as Roger Billington discovered when he was working at Minehead in 1965.
Billy decided to send a speedboat down. And I want you to do water skiing. And I was the idiot who said to him, but Mr. Butlin, we've never water. In fact, we've never driven a speedboat before. He said, there's a library in Minehead, go and get a book out. In his vocabulary, there's no such thing as can't.
You're going to try it yourself to appreciate how difficult it really can be.
All right, the boat was on the railway line a few times and on the sports field, but we managed to water ski. And we got so proficient, we actually did a Pathley pictorial, doing crossovers in the end, and we got quite good at it.
There you are, it's as easy as that. You don't often see a champion take a nosedive.
But whether water skiing or guest greeting, working as a redcoat in the early days of Butlins was a much sought-after job. Valerie Nibbs was working at the Birmingham Telephone Exchange when she applied to become a redcoat in 1959.
To be a redcoat in those days was really like winning Britain's Got Talent. When I did get the letter to say I was going to Filey, all the girls from the Telephone Exchange being so excited was just really as if I was a star.
One of Valerie's most important duties as a redcoat was broadcasting the campers' wake-up call on Radio Butlin.
At 7 o'clock, you'd say, good morning, campers, this is Valerie speaking. This is just to remind you it's now 7 a.m. and your first sitting breakfast will be available at 8:15.
This is Radio Butlin calling with a special announcement.
And then you would play Sleepy Shores very gently. So it was the only way of communicating with so many people, because if you had people turning up at any time for breakfast, you can imagine there would just be pandemonium.
This was not a tactic that would meet with the approval of Roy and Jill Williamson from King's Lynn, who for the most part were big fans of the redcoats.
They pulled out all stops to make your holiday as nice as possible, and by God, they done it.
But after a busy day around the camp, the last thing the Williamsons wanted was a country music wake-up call.
Well, first thing in the morning, over the tannoy, they would start off with some music. And when we were there, it was always John Denver singing Annie's song.
I'd like to get hold of it, break it or throw it in the pool. That's what I thought of Annie's song after a week of that same record.
Soon, fed-up holidaymakers started to sabotage the speakers in their chalets.
We found out later they were coming with wire clippers. And so they were clipping the wires. So after the first day, the clipper, they'd have to go around all the chalets at the end of the week and repair these tannoy speakers.
And when the redcoats weren't waking you up, they were getting you involved in another great Butlins tradition, the competitions. Stephen Mulhern used to go to Butlins every summer as a child.
The main thing were the competitions, because they'd have the talent competition, they'd have the Grandma's Granny competition, the Knobbly Knees competition. Donkey Derby as well. How did that ever get cleared? And did I enter every year? Of course I entered every year. I don't think I won once.
But only the bravest would prevail in Butlins' famous competitions.
And they're up.
As Redcoat Roy Hudd discovered when he was instructed to grab a granny for one of the holiday camp classics.
You line them up there and they're going to do a pram race. And I got this old girl in this pram and I ran her up the road, you know, and hit a bump and she came out arse over head. I thought, you know, she was knocked out. And I said, I hope she's all right, for God's sake. And eventually she came round and the first thing she said was, did we win?
Over the years, Butlins' competitions have unearthed some raw talent. Catherine Zeta-Jones got her first taste of the limelight when she won a junior talent show in 1979. Paul McCartney made his live debut performing Long Tall Sally as a teenager in Pwllheli. And 2 times Olympic champion Dame Kelly Holmes got a taste for success on the playing fields of Minehead, Skegness and Bognor Regis.
I was involved with everything when I was at Butlins. Running races, sack races, salt courses, the football. I didn't go in the pool much because I hate swimming. But anything else they had on, I would be there.
Butlins also gave Kelly an idea of just what being an Olympic star could be like.
It was in '84, I was 14, and Tessa Sanderson had won the Olympic Games. And she came to Butlins in a silver car with a javelin printed along the side. And I had my photo next to her at the car, and it made me just think, oh, you know, this is definitely what I want to be.
But perhaps the greatest prize for the female holidaymakers was the thought of being crowned Butlins' Beauty Queen. It was a dream that came true for one young girl from Sunderland who spent every summer of her childhood at Butlins. From an early age, Julie Parsons and her older sister Debbie treated the holiday camps as a fashion catwalk.
It was about not just having fun, but looking our best, enjoying how we looked and enjoying getting dressed up, and it was fabulous.
But when Julie turned 18, Debbie talked her into taking things a stage further.
My sister persuaded me to enter the beauty competition. Before I knew it, you know, there was all of these girls in frilly dresses, and actually I was in a very plain black dress that I'd made myself. When the host asked me what I liked to do, and I said bodybuilding, he asked me to, show my muscles.
Look at that, that was kneecaps.
I think maybe the judges thought I was quite funny. So I got into the final lineup, and then they called my name and I'd won it. It was all about fun, taking part as opposed to winning. But of course, when you win, it's fabulous, and any young girl in their teens wants to walk down an aisle with a sash, and I did that, so that was great for me.
Coming up, how Butlins played its part in the wartime effort and then helped Britain to get back to normality, and the heavenly taste of a Butlins donut.
And I could have ate that morning, afternoon and night.
2011, Butlins at Skegness. This modern resort is built on the same site as the very first Butlins holiday camp, which opened 75 years ago. And holidaying here in the 21st century is very different to those early days. Back in 1936, visitors flooded into the brand new Skegness camp. Billy Butlin quickly opened a second resort at Clacton-on-Sea. But life in Britain was not to be one big holiday. This recently discovered film shows visitors to the Clacton camp in 1939.
Every time I see this film, there's young men and young women just enjoying their holiday in glorious Technicolor. I get a lump in my throat because you know what's coming next. You know the story. You know that we're going to be at war any minute. A lot of those young lads and young ladies will never probably come back.
Seaside holidays would be over for the duration, but Billy Butlin soon found new customers to fill his chalets.
When Billy Butlin started building his holiday camp in 1936, he couldn't have conceived that a world war would start and the government would be begging for places to accommodate soldiers, sailors and members of the Air Force. And that's what his camps were used for.
Butlin's Skegness became HMS Royal Arthur, where disc jockey and presenter David Jacobs was one of thousands of young sailors to be called up.
I thought it was lovely. Is this the Navy? How marvellous. Single bed one side, single bed the other. It was fairly sparse, but the bed was lovely. It was a thick mattress. Well, of course, I didn't keep that mattress very long because the next day we were paraded outside and given our kit, our uniforms and our thin, hard mattress, which rolled up to go inside your hammock, if ever you could manage to get into a hammock. I have to tell you now, I never did, for some reason or other. Never managed it. So I think I probably slept on the floor.
Billy Butlin would find that the war would have its advantages for his fledgling business. The government not only rented his 2 existing sites, they also paid to build 3 more camps at Filey, Ayr and Pwllheli. Prince Philip was one of the troops stationed at Pwllheli as a young sailor during the war. In 1963, Billy Butlin welcomed the prince back to the camp when he returned with his wife, Queen Elizabeth, on a royal visit.
Billy Butlin said to him, "Tell me, Prince Philip, what was your chalet number when you were here with us during the war?" And Prince Philip is reputed to have said, "I'm not going to tell you that, Billy, because if I did, you'd charge an extra few pounds for the campers to stay in that chalet."
At the end of the war, Billy Butlin bought back the new camps from the government at a fraction of what they'd cost to build. Butlins at Filey on the Yorkshire coast opened to holidaymakers for the first time just 6 weeks after the victory parades. Sylvia Collins from Hull visited Filey with her family as a 16-year-old in 1945.
This was something so new and so nice for people who had gone through the war, and it was pretty horrendous at times. During the day, we went swimming, cycling, roller skating, beauty contests, which was always very popular with the men. Any entertainment that there was, they just all wanted to be there on it.
But for the teenage Sylvia, the highlight was undoubtedly the Viennese ballroom.
I'd never been in a ballroom before, and it was magic. I always remember it by the smell, you know, it must have been the polish. I don't know what they polished the floors with, but it was absolutely beautiful. I think it was so lovely to hear a big orchestra. Everybody just enjoying themselves. They came home from the war and all the families, they just wanted family holidays, and I think that's where Billy Butlin hit the nail on the head.
As the country got back on its feet after the war, more and more families started to be able to afford an annual break at the seaside. Many people headed to the booming holiday camps during the regular summer shutdowns of Britain's big industrial towns. Oldham lad Roger Billington first visited Butlins as a 7-year-old in the early 50s.
Oldham Wakes was the last couple of weeks in June, and everything used to close, all the mills, the factories, and we all went on holiday. This year we were going to Pwllheli, I remember arriving there, and the first thing what hit me was colour. Colour everywhere. And big, huge. I mean, Portelli had 10,000 people on board, and they're having a great time. They're laughing, they're smiling.
In the early 1950s, there was sweet rationing in Britain, but Butlins visitors still found ways to enjoy their holiday treats.
Because rationing was going on, you got your quarter of sweets, and you put a couple of your sweeties in the tin. This tin used to go in the suitcase, and when you arrived on holiday, you'd have a real gorge on all these sweets, what was been stashed away for a year in the sweetie tin.
It was while Roger was at Butlins that he saw something he'd never seen before and thought he'd give these newfangled doughnuts a go.
I decided, well, everything's free. Rides are free. Swimming pool's free. I'll have a doughnut. Now, I don't know what sugar was on the doughnut because of sweet rationing, but it tasted like nectar. It was absolute. And I could have ate that morning, afternoon and night, but they wanted money for it. They wanted payment. I'm saying, hey, wait a minute. I thought everything was free.
Sadly for Roger, treats between meals were always extra. But the meals themselves were an essential part of the all-inclusive holiday camp package. In 1955, Essex newlyweds Ron and Pat Stewart went to Butlins for the first time when they visited Clacton for their honeymoon.
We hadn't got a car, we would get there by bus. You know, a very small suitcase.
Yes.
But then you didn't need much.
But no, I think that was the beauty in that day. Everything was there. There was swimming and we went on the putting green. And then there was boating. You didn't have to leave because there was something of everything for everybody. And the atmosphere in the early days was lovely. It was like a big family, really.
We didn't have to worry about where the meals were coming from.
That was the nice part. I didn't have to get the meals or wash up.
It was good food.
Good service.
And good service.
Yes.
We took it all in our
Plenty of
stride
it,
there.
you know. My goodness.
They,
I think I put on weight, didn't I, that week?
yes, I'm afraid so, yes.
I think it took a shot at me on the scale. I couldn't believe it.
Brian Turner is now an award-winning chef and TV cook with an upmarket restaurant at the Bognor Regis Resort. But he first joined Butlins as a teenager in the early 60s.
I came here for 8 weeks and I really did nothing but fry eggs. You had this great big fryer which is about that deep in fat and you have to get the temperatures right and you'd break the egg into one corner and then break another egg and by the time you put the last one in this bottom corner, threw that, wiped your hands, picked up your egg slice, that one over there, the first one, it was ready. Then you lift them out onto trays and put them into a rack and the breakfast, more eggs, and someone would just take a tray of eggs there and say, there's my eggs going out there.
By the 1960s, Butlins holidaymakers were eating 4 million eggs a year and over 200 miles of sausages, as well as drinking 20 million cups of tea. There was also a fair amount of alcohol being consumed in Butlins' increasingly exotic range of pubs, clubs and drinking saloons. Margaret and Brian Turner from Warminster couldn't afford a foreign holiday with their young family back in 1965, but Butlins seemed like the next best thing.
To go into the Beachcomber Bar in those days was like going abroad, really, to a tropical island. We'd never been abroad, obviously, but we'd seen films and things. The place was really
all
done out really well, all decorated, you know, just like it would be, you know, in Hawaii, really.
Yeah, it was.
Did they have parrots as well? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
They may have done. It would be this storm and tornado and all the noise and flashes of lightning and everything. And of course the drinks they sold were all nice cocktails and things, and were very well done. And really, it was something really different, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was first introduced to a Pimm's in there.
That's
That
right.
was nice.
Pimm's number 1, wasn't it?
Took them ages to do it.
Coming up, the Butlins Beatles connection. Dance hall romance.
Love at first sight. I saw a real stunner stood over there.
Oh my gosh.
And one of British TV's brightest young talents returns to his roots.
I'm slightly getting goosebumps because this is special.
The first Butlins camp opened 75 years ago at Skegness on the blustery Lincolnshire coast. By the 60s, Butlins' 9 resorts were pulling in a total of 50,000 visitors a week. But British holiday camps faced a new challenge.
In the 1960s, people started going abroad. And it was found that you could go cheaper than coming to Butlins. And when you were there, the food, the drink were far cheaper than you would get them on a Butlin camp. They did try to counter it by publicity, and they did in fact say that even their stewardesses were coming to Butlins rather than go to exotic places abroad.
Gosh, isn't this exciting? And I suppose for holidays you can stop off anywhere you like in the world.
Well, I could, but I don't. I always go to Butlins.
Instead of Honolulu? Stop the plane. I'm getting off for Butlins.
But advertising campaigns aside, Butlins would also hit back against the foreign competition with a series of groundbreaking on-site attractions, from space-age monorails to continental-style cable cars. The Williamson family from East Anglia were particularly excited by the special features of the heated indoor pool.
It was a nice swimming pool with plastic leaves hanging from the roof. What a lovely view, all these flowers hanging from the ceiling.
But most memorable of all were the underwater windows, which allowed families to see each other through the well-polished, reinforced glass.
As Roy went in the swimming pool to swim down, of course, me and the children, we ran down the stairs with the camera and then found the window that he was going to come to and just filmed him.
You could see the family standing outside. We'd give our little silly waves, but it was really quite something. I mean, it don't sound quite something now, but at that time, that was technology.
Future Butlins beauty queen Julie Parsons and her sister went to Butlins for the first time in 1971. They loved the freedom they had to explore the camp's cutting-edge attractions from a very early age.
The independence was fabulous because there was so much for kids. We could just decide what we were going to do and off we went, hand in hand, sister and sister, and had a fabulous time. You know, one day we went on the Little Dipper, I think it was 15, 16 times, without stopping. We just ran round and round and round, but that was our decision. You know, when we did that, and we didn't have any parents saying, no, that's your last time, we did what we wanted to do. For children from the age of 3, 4, 5 to be given that freedom was wonderful. You gain confidence, certainly independence. So without a shadow of a doubt, it made us into different people, having gone to Butlins.
And while the children were enjoying the attractions, older, single campers were often looking for romance. In 1960, Brian and Margaret Turner found love in the Butlins ballroom at Clacton-on-Sea.
I went to Butlins with 3 other friends. We used to go in the dance hall every night. And Brian and his friends congregated at the door.
I just watched them in the dance hall.
Just watched, didn't ask to dance
Didn't
or
approach
anything.
anyone.
And all of a sudden, one of his friends came over one evening and he said, for goodness sake, come and dance with this chap over here. He keeps on about you all the time.
Love at first sight. I saw a real stunner stood over there.
Oh my gosh! So I went over and I danced with you,
Yes.
didn't I? And then that's how it all started.
Brian and Margaret got married exactly 2 years after they'd first met at Butlins and returned to the holiday camp in 1965 with their 2 young children. It was a good place for young parents because at Butlins there were always people to take the kids off your hands.
There's a particularly useful chalet patrol service to take care of the babies whilst you enjoy yourself.
Well, there was a maid cycling around all the chalets all the time. You had to inform them that you were out, you know, and if you went to a show or a dance or whatever you went.
You just give the nurse the number of your chalet. The patrol will visit the chalet at regular intervals, and if the nurse considers you should be called, a message will be sent to you.
Redcoat Valerie Nibbs would alert parents in the Gaiety Theatre.
We would quietly go down the steps to front of house, and there was a board, and then on that board we put the chalet number on and flicked the light over the numbers.
Every time a number came up, you thought, oh my goodness me, is it ours, you know? And it did happen to us once
It did happen
as
to
well.
us once, yeah.
Yeah, we had to leave.
Whilst it didn't interrupt the show, yes, there were times if it was a comedian, that could be quite difficult, in particular if he was just going to his punchline.
And it could well have been a top performer who was being knocked off their stride. Butlins has attracted some of the most famous names in entertainment, from Gracie Fields to Laurel and Hardy. But the biggest stars of the holiday camps were often young redcoats like Jimmy Tarbuck and Des O'Connor, just starting out on the road to fame. Actor and comedian Roy Hudd joined up at Clacton after completing his national service in 1958.
The great thing was anyone who wanted to get into show business, it was a great start. We shared a chalet, myself and my pal. One side of us was a fellow called Dave O'Marley. And a few years later, he changed his style completely, called himself Dave Allen. The other side was a fellow called Harry Webb. He changed his name to Cliff Richard, and he didn't do too bad, I promise you that.
Just like Cliff, many successful entertainers learnt their craft appearing day after day and week after week in front of Butlins audiences.
All I do is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, squeeze the ball tight, squeeze.
TV magician and presenter Stephen Mulhern started out in Minehead at the tender age of 17.
Piece of paper.
16 years later, on Butlins' 75th anniversary, he's come back to where his showbiz career began.
What corner is it? OK, the 10p. OK, so keep you on the corner, OK? Just say go.
Go.
That will go. How did you do that? It's amazing. You know, I worked as a redcoat for 2 years. By the end of that 2 years, I learnt how not to die on stage, because you realise what goes down well, why does that get a laugh there? You know, when I'm over this side of the stage or when I'm a bit further at the front, why does it get a different reaction? Well, there is a science to it, and no one can teach it to you. You need to just learn it, and the only way to learn it is to get a chance to do it. And that's what being a redcoat does. It gives you confidence to have the presence to just go, I'm here. You know, it's even just standing here now, I know it sounds weird, but I'm slightly getting goosebumps because you just go, this is special.
And a very special moment in British pop history unfolded at Butlins in Skegness in 1962, where the band in residence, Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, featured a promising young drummer called Ringo Starr.
Towards the end of the season, I was having a coffee with Ringo, and over the camp PA system, there came this call, Ringo Starr to the reception, phone call. He said, yeah, oh, hello, lads. And I knew he was talking to the Beatles for some reason. It just clicked, you know. And then he went, oh, do I have to? And he did that, because he had a beard. They would tell him to shave his beard off, and he didn't want to. Yeah, OK. Yeah, and he put the phone down, and he's turned around to me and said, I'm going to join the Beatles, you know. And I remember the exact words I said. I said, you've cracked it, mate, you know, because we just knew they were going to be absolutely huge, you know.
What would you think if I sang out
The same day, he went straight back to his chalet, shaved the beard off, and then he went straight to the hairdressers on the camp and had his hair cut in that Beatle cut already. So to turn up, and here I am.
Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. I get high with a little
Just 3 years later, another top British group would owe their existence to Butlins. 17-year-old Rick Parfitt was playing the Gaiety Theatre with his band, The Highlights.
We got offered the season at Butlins, and for us, I mean, that was a big break then, because everybody wanted to work at Butlins.
While Francis Rossi was lead guitarist with the Spectres in the Rock Ballroom.
So we'd have 2 shows a day. I think then you'd just have time to get home to the digs, have a wash, change, get back and do the evening section.
It worked out that every night when my little stint was over in the theatre, I'd race up to the Rock Ballroom and rock out with everybody, you know, because they were a really good band. And we just became great pals.
Yeah, he was a flash git. And he walked in there giving us the look. The guys, we all give each other the look. And he came over and introduced himself, and we became kind of friends.
If I hadn't have gone to Butlins and the band hadn't have gone to Butlins, we wouldn't have had this fusion. So it was a magical time in 1965 in every respect.
Coming up, hard times in the 1980s and how Butlins bounced back. By the 1980s, Butlins had attracted millions of holidaymakers for over 4 decades. But in that time, Britain had changed. We'd got used to cheap package holidays and had come to enjoy foreign travel. While the novelty of Butlins' ageing attractions was starting to wear thin.
The company needed a lot of reinvestment, but we had too many resorts. So I think the time was coming to close some of our resorts.
Through the 1980s, Butlins camps in Mosney, Filey, Clacton and Barry Island were closed down or sold off. Filey, often thought of as Billy Butlins' flagship site, closed in 1983, 3 years after his death at the age of 80. Rocky Mason had started out as a redcoat back in 1957 and had worked his way up to a senior management position at Filey.
I'd been working for Butlins for almost 30 years, and so it was heartbreaking. All my redcoats and all my members of the staff, every single one of them was loyal to Butlins and really enjoyed their job, and they were just as heartbroken, perhaps, as we were.
Paul Ray from Hull used to come on holiday to Filey as a child. 5 years after the camp shut, he returned to make a video record of the now deserted site.
I came back most weekends in the summer months, and it was just very strange to have the whole camp. What was once full of bustling people, and there was just me walking around. I could hear voices and laughter, children's laughter in the distance. It was very ghostly. When I used to come up, it was full of thousands of people, and then it was just desolate. I just remember thinking about the times I'd had there.
Butlins needed to change. The company began to invest in the ageing holiday camps and in a lavish marketing campaign. But back in 1987, It may have been an advertisement too soon.
The sad part about it was when the advert came out, we had one or two customers who came up afterwards when they came on holiday and said, "You didn't blow that chalet up, you put me in that time." That was a good advert, but a little bit before its time.
By the end of the 90s, there were only 3 Butlins holiday camps left, at Minehead, Bognor Regis and the original site at Skegness. But the company spent tens of millions of pounds to bring the facilities into the 21st century, with modern hotels, a range of restaurants and a new entertainment area called the Skyline Pavilions. Today, Butlins is playing host to a new generation of holidaymakers. Like Elliot Slataslavek, who's now visiting the resort his mum used to love as a child. Gisela was a regular at the holiday camps, and her film fanatic dad, Ken Shaw, would record every moment for posterity.
I've been brought up on Butlins. I have been brought up, and my dad used to film us religiously every year coming here, and we've got so much footage of being here. I used to love the Merry Mixer, and I used to always go on that all the time. And I love the fun fair, so much to do. You like going now, don't you, Ellie, on there?
Yeah, I really like it because I enjoyed the ride where you're in them plane things.
Whoa! Did you like that? Yeah, it was really good. Yeah. My memories from when I was little, everything was really, really colourful. I feel Butlins is injecting that colour back in again now.
Gisela's father, Ken Shaw, died recently. For her, there was only one place that seemed right to lay him to rest.
Well, my dad obviously had been coming a long time, and then when he passed away, I just thought I need to take my dad's ashes here, because I know that's where he'd want to be and he'd be happy. So he's near the old listed chalet now. His ashes had been scattered there.
In 2011, Butlins attracts over 1 million visitors a year. On its 75th anniversary, the widow of the man who changed the face of the British holiday a lifetime ago returned to see Butlins' latest incarnation.
It would be overwhelming to him that he'd gathered so many people together. When you think of millions of people that have passed through Butlins, his legacy is bringing people together.
Over the last 75 years, Butlins has become a British institution and touched the lives of millions of people. Whether they were performers, redcoats, or the people that really mattered, the holidaymakers.
Billy Butlins, he's given us freedom and some colour in our lives. I think he was a man who changed the way we think. People started thinking all year about the next holiday, which is something they'd never considered before.
It was a complete escape from normal life because everything was done for us. It was a complete change of lifestyle for just 1 week.
It was a week where we had the freedom, we made our own decisions and we did what we wanted to. It has a very special place in my heart, for sure.
Every part of my life has been touched by Butlins. Even my smile today is my Butlins smile. It'll be something that I will take with me right until my last breath. And give me a red jacket, I'll put it on. And I'd like to say thank you, Sir Billy.
And stay where you are next tonight. Some of the funniest moments of 2011 are remembered by Philip Schofield and his guests. An amusing hour it will be. The Comedy Annual is coming up.